Well, here we go again with what I'm sure you agree is the most wonderful time of the year. As I record this video, it's still unclear whether there will be an NFL season. But no matter, the excitement of high school football will get us through. Looking at the comparatively few and minor new rules this year, it appears that most agree that the rulebook is in pretty good shape. Still, I hope you will embed them into your repertoire the rule committee has certainly come up with some ideas that improve player safety, sportsmanship, and the general quality of the game. So let's take a look. First up is a change in a rule, Rule 118, at least in the wording of when the responsibilities of officials ends. Now this is only the administrative responsibilities. When you hold that ball up at the end of the game or the end of overtime, the game is over. But due to a court case last year, and we won't go into that, but there was a claim in this court case that once the officials, the football officials, had left the field, their reports, which were to be used in this court case, could not be used. So they had to add this rule that says that your administrative, your written responsibilities do not end until you've completed your reports, and that can certainly extend beyond the end of the game. No big deal. It's probably not going to change anything for anybody. However, consider, I would add this to you commissioners, this means by rule that you definitely have not finished your job until you've completed your penalty summary reports, if you're required. Your sportsmanship reports. Some counties have sportsmanship reports. And even if you have probationary ratings to do, your responsibilities do not end until you've done that, by rule. Okay, now let's begin where we usually do, with player and game equipment. And there are some changes that we need to talk about. First up, thigh guards. I hope you know what thigh guards are. It's these things here. Now, players are starting to wear thigh guards with an added set of pants, if you would, underpants, in their underpants, as opposed to their football pants. So the rule has allowed for these new, different ones that are sold by many manufacturers. And they've taken out the restriction for how thick they need to be. As long as they're not altered from the way the manufacturer made them, the player can wear any one. And of course they must be worn. Okay? Basically, the reason for this rule, I should tell you, is that puts the liability on the manufacturer. Okay? So they can be any width as long as they're not altered. Let's move on to probably one of the biggest rules is about eye shading. And the intent of this rule, by the way, overall, remember, eye shade was supposed to be used as a way to shade your eyes from the light or the sun. And what it's become, unfortunately, is a fashion statement. And the intent of the rule is to take that out. New Rule 153 adds new restrictions and clarifies the use of eye shade. You can only use a single solid stroke, can be any color actually, under each eye. And no words or numbers or logos of any kind, and it can't go lower than the cheekbone.
Not.
For instance, we couldn't have either of these. These are meant, as you can see, to bring attention to the player. That is not the function, or should not be the function, of eye shading.
Oh, no you don't.
No, this player is not going to be legal as well. Now, if they do have sweat during play, I wouldn't don't go there. Don't worry about that. But in a situation like this, remember, it has to be under each eye only. So this is certainly illegal. We're in the realm of war paint here. And once again, remember what we told you. The intent is to take away the fashion statement. Here's an example of legal eye shade. Just one stroke, one solid stroke, or you may use the stickers, one small sticker under each eye. Okay? And it can only be the width of the eye socket, and it must be above the cheekbones. I think that's clear. Now, I'd like to go over some of the equipment rules that there weren't any changes, but I think we, based on last year, need some old clarifications. We need to revisit eye shields. Let's make sure, if a player decides to use an eye shield, that you've checked it before the game and that it has absolutely no tint of any kind. Now, the purpose of that is if that player gets injured, we need to be able to see the player's eyes. If you're unsure, based on the lighting or the color of the player's skin, it appears to have a tint perhaps, and someone's asking, well then, before the game, have the player take the helmet off, stick your fingers inside the helmet, with it off now, and make sure you can see the fingers. If you can see through it, then everything's okay. That was the intent, that we can see the player's eyes if he becomes injured. Now, just remember, there are no notes of any kind that are going to allow you to break this rule, no matter what. Last year, we had a situation where one of the players' fathers happened to be a lawyer and raised a big ruckus, had a medical excuse, and went through and said he was going to sue and all this stuff. You have absolute right to stop that player from playing, and they can always take off the eye shield, remember, okay? Do not allow, for any reason, a tinted eye shield. And don't worry about anybody suing you, because you have the rule book to back you up. Now, I had some communication with some coaches and officials, well-intentioned, mind you, that remembered that we're not allowed to have any kind of sticky substance on our person. But actually, you need to know in 1532, it's more specific. That sticky substance has to affect the ball or an opponent. There are new, if you would, somewhat sticky shirts that the players wear that keep their shoulder pads in place, and that is for safety only, and it doesn't affect the ball or the opponent. So these are okay. Let them play with those shirts. One last thing I'd like to review, and that is mouthpieces. As the technology changes, we get all kinds of different mouthpieces. Now, you know the purpose of a mouthpiece. I think a lot of players don't know this. The purpose is to prevent a concussion, period. Has nothing to do with the teeth. I got it well. I mean, so that they don't hit their teeth and cause a concussion. So, make them know that, and make them know that what's the most important part of that mouthpiece is going to be the back teeth, the posterior. So we can't be chewing it off, kind of a thing, because that's where you get the most impact on, when you hit the ground or whatever, and that's what's going to cause a concussion. We know the rule is that these mouthpieces need to be visible, so they can't be all white like someone's teeth, or clear. They can't be all white or clear. So something like this would not be legal. Now, you may see something like this, or I had someone call me about something like this, because there are some dentists that are making them for people that have braces. And they're somewhat larger. But note, they can make them in various colors. In fact, I actually called a dental place, and they told me they make 100 different colors. They even make it in polka dot or tiger stripe of your team colors. So, and by the way, no excuse. In fact, I hope you know that a note will not get you anything anymore I'm not sure. I don't even think the word note is in the rule book anymore. A note will get you nothing. So there is no exception to this rule.
Oh, no, you don't.
Okay? No dentist note, no doctor's note, no anything. Note that when I called that dentist last year, they told me they could get it ready. They could actually make one of these things. It was about $30 for braces in 5 days. Now, if you're under the gun for 5 days, I've had many people give me the idea of just put electric tape or some sort of striped tape on the mouthpiece so that it's not all white or clear. It's easy to see. Until you go buy the colored one that granted, it does take a little extra time to make that for braces, but they can do it in 5 days and it's not expensive. So we're not going to accept any notes, and that's the way it's going to be. Now, the mechanics of all of this equipment stuff, let's make sure everyone's on the same page. We're always going to, of course, by rule, ask the coach if they're properly equipped prior to the game.
Make it so.
And then the name of this game is Prevent, okay? You should be, don't be walking around talking to each other before the game. The idea of walking around the field is to be patrolling and looking to see if there are any questions or any deviations from the legal equipment. Please take care of all of these things before the game. I hope we know the difference between an illegal equipment, which is unsportsmanlike conduct, where they have something they're not allowed to have, such as stickum or oversized cleats, and failure to wear required equipment, which is only 5 yards. For instance, if someone didn't have their knee pads or their mouthpiece in or something. Okay? And remember that you always have available to you Rule 362D, which is delay of game if someone doesn't have it. If you see it, don't let the play go off. Okay? Stop and call it a delay of game. Okay. Let's talk about the new definitions this year. First up, and probably most important, is the new definition of a chop block. Okay, go ahead and take a look at this video.
Lester made the first one miss. Flags all over the place, though.
This may be a cut block because he went down in a hurry and the flag came out.
That's it. You called it, Paul. And you hear the boos raining out over the call. And we just hope that Darrell Scott's going to be okay.
They set up and then he just cuts right there. And, you know, the defensive man really has no chance at all. He can't see it. All he can do is feel it.
And it does not feel good.
Now be honest. Did you see that chop block? Were you looking somewhere else? Hopefully, I'd like to try to give you some guidance in spotting chop blocks. And I would argue, to see chop blocks, you really have to know the definition of another type of penalty, and that is blocking below the waist. Because certainly blocking below the waist is part of a chop block. Let's talk about, because you probably would call blocking below the waist anywhere else on the field. Let's talk about where blocking below the waist is permitted. Might sound crazy, but consider this. Blocking below the waist is allowed in the free blocking zone when everybody involved is on the line of scrimmage and in the zone at the snap, in the free blocking zone. And the contact has to be in the zone. And of course the free blocking zone disintegrates quite quickly, generally, after the ball has left the zone. So, basically you could say that the only time you're allowed to block below the waist is basically your initial hit, isn't it? Well, consider then, let's re-look at this video and consider when could a chop block be called. Any other time, I would call it a block below the waist, anywhere else on the field. If we're looking for a chop block, I want you to look in the free blocking zone, on the line of scrimmage, at the snap. Look in there and see if you don't see it there. That's where chop blocks are going to occur, because anywhere else on the field, same penalty, but you would call it probably a block below the waist. Let's watch again.
Lester made the first one miss. Flags all over the place, though.
This may be a cut block.
Did you see it that time? Well, let me give you a little bit more guidance. Let's talk about the new definition, and this is to make it easier to officiate, for a chop block. A chop block, first of all, is a double team block. Okay? It's going to be any combination block where one block is high, what I mean is above the knee, and the other block is low, below the knee. That will be a chop block. Now, people say, what about delay? Nope. With or without delay. The new rule takes delay out of it. All you're looking for is a high-low double team. Very dangerous. A low-low combination is not as dangerous, so that is no longer a chop block. The only thing you're looking for a chop block is a high-low combination. You don't have to worry about delay. So, let's take a look for another one. Now, where are you going to look? You're going to look in the free blocking zone, somewhere in there, at the initial charge, if you would. Take a look. I wanted you to see that a couple times. I hope you saw that it was a chop block on towards number 91. And at the end, if you saw in the video, I hope you saw, he got up very gingerly and he was obviously hurt. Now let's look at a low-low. Of course, this will be legal. A low-low chop block, and you wouldn't call this. Once again, where are we looking? We're looking in the line at the initial shot. See if you can look and see if you can see what I call a low-low chop block. Not quite as dangerous, so not illegal. I hope you see number 77 at the end got right up and was ready to move into the play. Now, I want to show you what I would call an additional category of this that I think is important because chop blocks are very dangerous. I call this a no-harm chop block. Okay, take a look.
56,000 students, second largest in the country. Flag down in the middle of the field as Rashawn Ely gets it out over the 40. But there is a flag right in the middle of that line of scrimmage.
Illegal chop block. Number 77 of the offense. Penalties 15 yards from the previous spot. Remains first down.
It's Trenton Sturdivant, the junior left tackle. One guy's engaged. He goes down low. And that's right there, number 77. Engaged with Cordy Glenn, and then he chops down.
Those, I hate to see them.
Now that was a planned play. And even though the player was not hurt, you need to call that foul. They can't be planning to hurt someone. So if you see a chop block, whether the player gets hurt or not, I hope it's obvious to you, for crying out loud, call it. And a chop block is, once again, any high-low combination block with or without delay. Okay, 15-yard penalty. The low-low combination is legal. Don't worry about that. And actually the high-high combination is legal. It's the high-low combination that you're looking for. That's the new definition, with or without delay. Okay, let's talk about this team conference thing. Don't worry, it's not going to be that bad. There really is very little change in this rule. It's just a retitling or a renaming. We're going to list the authorized conferences as, quote, between the 9-yard mark conferences, which looks like this, where you can have one coach on the field with the 11 players, or the outside the 9-yard mark conference, where, like this, the teams or team comes to the sideline and can talk to as many coaches as they want. So we've got the between the 9-yard mark and the outside the 9-yard mark. This is going to be used when we go and define and talk about the new rule.
Would you mind telling me what this is all about, mister?
Regarding injuries and authorized timeouts during injuries. The one, and it's just a clarification, really. It's not a change. It's just a listing of logic, if you would. When an injury occurs and the referee grants an authorized conference, mind you, I'm going to tell you in a second, he doesn't have to grant an authorized conference. But if he does, that conference, hopefully it's obvious, must be what we call an outside the 9-yard mark conference. Okay, so when an injury occurs, if you're going to have a conference, don't get it. We don't want anybody getting in the way of, the assistance to the injury, for crying out loud. So it's going to have to be, of the two, an outside the 9-yard mark conference. And hopefully, once again, common sense and logic, it must be conducted away from the injured player to give, medical help to him. So in this situation, if the injured player is in the middle of the field, it's easy. We see the two teams are, having an outside the 9-yard mark conference. In this situation, the injured player is on the sideline. They have to have an outside the 9-yard mark conference, but they have to. The white team here is going to have it away from the injured player. Hopefully, this is obvious. Now, let's not read any more into this rule than what it says. The intent of this change is the number one thing that we want to happen in a situation like this is we want the injury to get the appropriate attention. That's the number one thing. Number two, we want a substitute preparing to enter. That's an important thing as well if you consider it. Okay. Here's what we don't want. We don't want coaches conferring about strategy near the injury. They might get in the way, or they might even, deflate the morale of the injured player. So we don't want that. But let's not dig a hole for ourselves. Consider the rule. Let's make sure we know the rule for authorized conferences. An authorized conference may be held during a charged timeout, an official's timeout, and that's 357 G, K, and L. Oh, what are G, K, and L? G, K, and L are, G is unusual heat, K is a TV radio timeout. I don't think many of us are going to get that. And L is, of course, the intermission between quarters for 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Quarters 3 and 4. And after a try, field goal, or safety. They get an authorized conference however they choose to do it at that time. Now, this is not one of those situations, is it? However, wait a minute, I haven't finished the rule yet. 358 has 1, 2, and 3 if granted by the referee in 3-5-10. 3-5-10 is the rule that we just covered about injuries. You may grant them an authorized conference. You don't have to, but I think you may want to consider doing that. I'll tell you why. 9-8F, remember that between downs, and that's where we are here in an injury, communications between players and coaches near the sideline are not unauthorized conferences. So you can't call an unauthorized conference. Don't dig a hole for yourself. They're allowed to talk to each other near the sideline, and that was the reason, you see, for the new rule. It's going to force them to be near the sideline so that you don't have to throw a flag on anything. One tool that I've used, other than this new rule, it'd be great to use this rule. Coach, you guys need to get near the sideline. In the past, I used to say, Coach, I always try to bring it to jest. You're old, they're young. Make them come to you. That's a little easier for me because I'm old, but I'll tell you what, that's a tool that you might use. Get them near the sideline and get them away from the injury. Don't worry about trying to prevent communication between the two, because we are going to need a substitute eventually. Okay? Now, we have a new rule about injured players as well. Here's another new rule that's going to make life easier for you, easier to remember and easier to officiate. It's really not new to me. Those of you that have worked with Jim Slavey, I think 20 years ago he came up with one of the 30 Slaveyisms is that a bleeding player is an injured player. Well, this just takes it another step further. A bleeding player and a concussed player is an injured player. So the new rule 3510 involves anybody that's bleeding or anybody that appears to exhibit the signs and symptoms of a concussion. Okay? We're going to treat them exactly like an injured player. So injured, if you would, in Slavey's words, would be not just an apparently injured player, but also any player who exhibits signs consistent with a concussion, and additionally, any player that is bleeding or has an open wound. Okay, we're going to treat them all the same. What do you mean we're going to treat them all the same? Well, if they're injured, an official's timeout occurs, which is not charged to either team. I'm sure you knew that. But the player has to be replaced for at least one down, unless halftime or overtime occurs. In other words, they can't buy themselves in with a timeout. Okay, this is how it's different from NCAA. You can buy anything in NCAA, and you can't buy anything in Federation rules. That's another thing you can remember. Okay, so anybody in any of these three, whether they're injured or bleeding or appear to have a concussion, they at least have to stay out for one down unless halftime or overtime occurs. The intermission for overtime occurs. Okay, and they can't buy themselves in with a timeout. Now, there's a couple penalty changes I want to show you. There's a minor clarification on the penalty for horse collar. Not the definition of horse collar. That remains the same. And that is that no player can grab the inside back or side collar of the shoulder pads or the inside back or side collar of the jersey of the runner and then subsequently finish it by pulling that opponent to the ground. He doesn't finish until he pulls it to the ground, until he pulls the opponent to the ground. It is not a horse collar until that is completed. Well, consider this video. I'm hoping you saw that penalty, if you would, that foul, began inbounds, but it didn't finish until he was pulled down, and he was pulled down out of bounds. So the question occurs, is that situation going to be a live ball foul or a dead ball foul? Well, the new rule or the new clarification is that all horse collar fouls are live ball fouls. Now, you can see from this pictogram or play pick that it's going to matter sometimes. It's going to matter if it's fourth down and this situation occurs, and we're going to treat it as a live ball foul so that the offense will get a first down. If we treated it as a dead ball foul, then, you know, the possession of the ball would turn over and we'd march the 15 yards off against the new offense, if you would. So just remember that all horse collar fouls, if you call it a horse collar, it's going to be a live ball foul. That was kind of a clarification we made last year, but it was verified within the rule book this year in 943K. Now there's a new penalty, or once again, a clarification of penalty when the roughing the passer occurs. The rule has been reworded, if you would, regarding the penalty for roughing the passer. It used to be that it was 15 yards and a first down. It still is. From the end of the last run, when the end of the last run is beyond the neutral zone and there's no change of possession. Now, instead of the end of the last run, we're going to say the dead ball spot in both cases. That's going to clarify and take away something that's unclear, if you would, when on this play there's a loss of possession by the offense. For instance, in this situation, I hope you look at the picture to the left here, we've got A being roughed, and he passes the ball to this fella, who then fumbles it, okay? And it's recovered by his teammate, or him, over here. Well, that's where the play ended, so that's where we're going to march the 15 yards off from. He happened to fumble forward in that case. Now, in the right picture, same play, A is roughed, and he passes it to this fella, and he fumbles backward. It doesn't matter. Hey, don't fumble backwards, okay? It's a disadvantage, okay? Don't fumble. But if his own teammate gets it, then they're going to we're going to march that 15 yards off from the dead ball spot. Now, the only time we're not going to do that is when there's a change of possession. In this picture, on the left here, A1 again is roughed. He passes the ball, and there's a fumble, but this time it's recovered by B. Well, that's a change of possession. So you're going to have to march that penalty off from the previous spot. In the right picture, A1 is roughed. He passes it to A2, who fumbles it, and perhaps we have a touchback. Well, you know, I would call that a change of possession. I think it makes it easy. We still have a change of possession, so even in a touchback situation, you're going to march it off from the previous spot. So that's what we're going to use for roughing the passer. We're going to use the dead ball spot for where we march that penalty off from, whether it's a forward fumble or a backward fumble, unless there's a change of possession, in which case we're going to march it off from the previous spot. Not a huge change, I would say, just a rewording. Now, there's one very specific new rule regarding illegal participation. It is now illegal participation when a player intentionally goes out of bounds and while out of bounds affects the play or touches the ball. Now, this is in reaction to a play that occurred last year where a player, a receiver actually, ran out of bounds in the end zone and then jumped up and tipped the ball back to his teammate for a touchdown. That is the only time we want you to enforce this penalty. Please do not read anything else into this rule. I've already had many calls, and they said on the national meeting, we don't want to read any other situations. We had people that, you know, when the receiver caught the ball out of bounds, not only was it an incomplete pass, but it was a penalty for illegal participation. We don't want anything like that, okay? Or on a kick play when the fellow went out of bounds and touched the ball. Just in this exact situation, I think they're going to reword it by next year in some way. Will it be illegal participation? No tipping the ball back to your teammate is the idea. Okay, enough. Please don't make any more of that. Now, let's look at the points of emphasis. I would propose to you that it's really a great tool to know your points of emphasis. When you can, it's so nice to be able to turn to a coach that maybe disagreeing with a penalty call that you made and go, Coach, that's a point of emphasis. That's been a point of emphasis. We're asked to call that foul. Okay, so and this year it's especially easy because there's really only one point of emphasis. It appears that there's more, but there's one point of emphasis with a lot of sub-points, if you would. The point of emphasis this year is concussions and taking care of concussions and what causes concussions and preventing concussions. Now, this was a big, maybe the number one issue last year And we want to make it a point of emphasis this year to keep the head out of football. Officials, when in doubt, any initiation of contact with the helmet is illegal. Call it. Coaches, discourage it. Consider, I won't go through too much of this, though if you need it, suggested guidelines for the management of a concussion are on page 96 of your rule book. Okay? They've given you all kinds, the Federation has given you all kinds of resources. There's something in your rule book. Just like last year, if you go to www.nfhslearn.com, you can take a free course in what you need to know about concussions. Now, between last year and this year, 175,000 people took that course. It takes 20 minutes. So please consider that. And while I'm thinking of it, there's 2 new free courses that will be out in August. One's on sportsmanship, and the other is on hydration. So consider, they work the same way. They're free, and you can get a diploma if you would. So consider that. But specifically, as far as this point of emphasis regarding concussions, we don't want any helmet-to-helmet contact, but let's call it the right thing. Anything by the defense, for instance, face tackling or spearing, that initiates contact with the helmet is a foul. The offense can cause a foul as well that causes a concussion, butt blocking, leading with the helmet. If a defender launches or initiates contact with the top of his helmet in any way, let's not call it helmet to helmet because that's not in the rule book. Let's call it a spear. A spear is a spear. And don't you know, the runner can spear. If the runner initiates contact with the top of his helmet, it is a foul. Gentlemen, it is a foul. It is a point of emphasis. Please make that call. Any blow to the head could cause a concussion. In this case, it's going to go the opposite direction. So once again, any blow to the head or the helmet, call it. One other thing that affects concussions and it's part of the point of emphasis, and that is making sure that helmets fit. Now, coaches, you can really help out with this. The problem with helmets is never that they're too small, it's that they're too large. Please take the time to make sure every player's helmet fits properly. Okay, that's all your rule changes and points of emphasis. But
Last time on Who Wants to Be
if you will indulge me for just a few more minutes, I'd like to save myself some phone calls and emails by inserting a new feature into my annual presentation. You may or may not know that last year was my first year in this position. I must admit that years ago I believed that the entire job consisted of going around doing these clinics. But what I found out last year was that issues continue to occur throughout the season and even in the off season that need to be resolved. My thought was that by sharing the resolutions to last year's issues, we can all improve and never make the same mistakes or even face these sometimes unclear situations more than once. With that said, I would like to challenge you to play Who Wants to Be a Referee? Now, you didn't come to the live show, so you're not going to get to use the Ask the Audience, but you can stop the video and phone a friend. So let's take a look at the first question. You only have to get 2 questions right to win, and I'm not kidding here, 2 questions right to win $1 million. I dare you. Let's try it. First question. Which of the following is a true statement? Under Armour muscle bands are legal in both the NCAA and Federation football. B. Walkie-talkies may not be used as a form of communication device. C. Players should play till they hear the whistle. And D. An official's whistle seldom kills the ball. It is already dead by rule. What do you think? Only one of these is a true statement. Only have to get 2 right. Think about it. Well, let me give you a hint. Make no mistake, the following items related to game uniform are listed in the book as illegal equipment. Recognize these? For many years, this rule has been in the book. Uniform attachments, with the exception of moisture-absorbing sweatbands, which these are not, when worn on the wrist beginning at the base of the thumb and extending no more than 3 inches toward the elbow. Anything else is illegal equipment. Now, jewelry is illegal also, with the exception of religious or medical alert medals, and they have to be taped. But these are not religious jewelry. In fact, this year, we warned you about this last year. This year, you can see how this is dangerous. This year, they actually added a new casebook comment on page 11 of the casebook, 153, regarding these muscle bands. They are illegal. Make no mistake. So coaches, officials, let's clean these up before the game begins. We don't want to see them. We don't want to be bringing attention to ourselves with these bands. With that said, we know it's not option A. Okay, let me give you another hint. Let's talk about illegal coaches' field equipment.
I know that, dude.
Communication devices, including but not limited to cell phones, shall not be used for coaching purposes during the game or between periods. Cell phones cannot be used, including the ones that you wear on your ear. Okay? Now let's read into this again. Communication devices other than audio recorders, which are legal, local area network phones, and or headsets. Those are legal. So if your communication keeps you in communication with somebody that's local and at the game, then it's okay, you see. That's why a cell phone does not meet that requirement. And players may use the local area network phones, or the headsets we call them, but only during authorized sideline conferences. We don't want to be getting into the, bringing them out on the field kind of a thing. Note that we specifically talked to Mr. Colgate, the national supervisor, and he said he thinks that walkie-talkies are local area network phones. So walkie-talkies, not cell phones, may be used, but only for coaching purposes. I hope that is clear. So that means that B is also incorrect, because that said walkie-talkies may not be used. Walkie-talkies may be used. Now, we really want to give you this $1 million. So I'm going to give you yet another clue in this, the first of 2 questions. And I'll tell you the reason I want to do this is this next issue probably came up the most. I got the most phone calls and emails regarding this. So please pay attention to this clue, everybody. You know, on page 80 of the rule book, they list the football fundamentals. And football fundamental 3 is that an official's whistle seldom kills the ball. It's already dead by rule. Whether the runner's down or the pass is incomplete or whatever, it's already dead by rule. Consider a couple situations here. Here we have a situation, a player making a fair catch signal, and just indulge me if you will, the ball is coming down and he's about to catch it. Officials and coaches, do we want to tell you to blow that whistle as soon as he catches that ball? I don't think you want that. Because sure in heck, if you try to blow that whistle, what's going to happen? He's going to muff the catch, and it's going to be an inadvertent whistle, and everybody's going to be mad. So you'll always hear anyone that has any experience in officiating, you want slow whistles for that reason. Okay? The ball will kill itself. As I said in the football fundamental, an official's whistle seldom kills the ball. It kills itself. It's already dead by rule. We don't want any inadvertent whistles. Now, in this situation, that player is certainly down. He's got possession of the ball. He's touching the ground. He's got players on top of him. He's certainly down. What if the whistle hasn't blown? Is he down? Yes, he's still down. For instance, what if he fumbled right now? Well, would it really be a fumble? No, he was down. Okay? So he is down. There really is no need for a whistle. In fact, if you watch a college game, I can tell you from 25 years of experience officiating college football, half the plays there isn't a whistle. Okay? Everybody knows the rules, and there's no need to blow a whistle. The ball kills itself. I say this because if somebody came in and hit that number 49 right now, whether the whistle had blown or not, it would be a late hit. So we do not want to be telling players a shortcut lesson to play to the whistle, because you're going to end up getting late hits. If you want to say that, you want to say play till the end of the play. Okay, but I don't think you want to tell a player to play to the whistle, because you're going to get some late hits there. Now, in the same respect, let's be fair to the officials. In this situation, is that player down? No, he's not. Or maybe he is. If he's moving backward, it's up to the official to decide. And what's going to decide? How are we going to know that he's down if his progress has been stopped? Well, in this case, the official is going to have to blow the whistle. So any of you commissioners that are telling people never to blow the whistle, we can't do that either. We have to be clear with our statements. We can't tell players to play to the whistle, and we also can't tell officials to never blow the whistle. Okay? Let's be a little clearer, learn the rules, and I think everybody will be happier. With that said, number C, players should play till they hear the whistle, is absolutely wrong. And as we know, D, an official's whistle seldom kills the ball. It is already dead by rule, is the correct answer. Okay, we're gonna give you that one. That means that you won $500,000. You still have one more question to get correct. Let's take a look at that one. Once again, you're going to have to pick which of the following is a true statement. A team may not be in the end zone during the coin toss. If a kick receiver waves his hands in a stay away type signal, it is not a foul. Any act by the offense clearly intended to cause B to encroach is a false start. And non-contact sideline interference cannot result in a head coach being disqualified. This is a tough one, but you do get $1 million. I'm not kidding, if you can get it right. Think about it. Only pick one answer. You can stop the tape and phone a friend if you wish. I dare you. Give me a choice. Okay, I'll even give you yet another clue. Remember last year's new rule about the coin toss? It went over who could be on the field. We could only have 4 players, 4 captains from each team, yada, yada, yada. But the new part of it was that all other team personnel must remain outside the field of play. Now, it's important from Rule 2, always important to know your definitions in Rule 2. What is the field of play? The field of play is the area within the boundary lines and the goal line. So actually, a team by this rule can be in the end zone during the coin toss. However, let me make something clear. Let's look at the mechanics of a coin toss. The referee, I guess, would bring out his captains, wouldn't he? And the umpire brings out his captains. And those are the two fellows that really run the coin toss. And then you may remember that the back judge comes out on the one side. And really, what is his job? What is the back judge's job? Everybody has a job. His job is to keep that team off the field. Really, that's his job. That's why he stands there. And the line judge is on the other side, and his job is to keep the other team off the field during the coin toss. He's not just there for looks, I assure you. Okay? And what about the head linesman? Oh yeah, he's over with his crew working, okay? So I'm not really concerned about him. But I want you to consider, I saw this at least 3 times last year. What if the team lines up over here? Okay? Now we know they have to be, can't be on the field, so that, and they can even be in the end zone. I wish they wouldn't be, but they could be. Now, first of all, why do they even want to be over there? I'll tell you why. Because the babes are over there. Okay? They want, and that's reasonable. But and probably they're going to run through some paper or something, and that's okay. But if that's where they're going to line up, whose job is it to watch them? In this case, it's the line judge. He's doing nothing in this position. So if that team takes the position in the end zone, for crying out loud, whoever's in charge of that team, go do your job. You're not there for looks. Go stand and talk to the captain in front and say, listen, captain, don't even think about running on this field yet. Okay, I'll tell you when, or you're going to get yourself in deep doo. Okay, make sure you make that clear. As I said last year, there's not more than 4 team members in game uniform from each team in the coin toss, and everyone else has to be off the field. Now, they never really gave a penalty for this because we really wanted it to be used in a preventative manner. But this year, they actually gave a penalty. You could use unsportsmanlike conduct. If you do, you've lost control. Okay, make no mistake. Don't you dare, I hope you won't have to call this, I hope you will prevent this from happening. Okay, but if you have to, it is a 15-yard unsportsmanlike conduct foul. Okay, and that's new this year. So, I guess that makes option A, a team may not be in the end zone during the coin toss, incorrect. And I'm hoping you have the right answer now. If you don't, let me give you one more clue. Now let's watch this video. It is a correct call, but for crying out loud, pay no attention to the, as usual, idiot announcers, and make sure you watch it to the very end. Very important.
Trendon Holiday drifts back. He's going to let this one bounce, and it takes a huge... Oh, then he picks it up.
Smart play.
Watch out for the block in the back. That's not there. Here goes Holiday.
The play was blown dead.
Wow. Whistle. Oh, my.
The official, I saw him signal timeout. The dreaded inadvertent whistle. They thought Holiday had been stopped.
He called fair catch, right? The inadvertent fair catch.
Calling it an inadvertent fair catch. He waved his hands down to get away from the ball. He's telling his players to get away from the ball, and then he catches it.
That's not a fair catch signal.
That was just missed.
That was not a fair catch signal. First down and 10. Out of bounds.
We're getting some help up in the booth from our official in the booth saying when the returner, Trenton Holiday, waves his hands like that to get away from the ball, that is the proper call, that he cannot take the ball and run with it after that. That is the rule, I guess. He was trying to tell his own players to get away from the ball. The ball bounced to him and he can't advance it. So Rocky Good has been with us all year, helped us on that one. I had never heard of that, I have to be honest.
Nope.
Now please note, in our game, what we would have done, we should have done in that case, was wait till the kick receiver possessed the ball, and then the invalid fair catch signal that he made killed the ball. Okay, once he possessed it. We would kill it, throw a flag, and march off 5 yards for an invalid fair catch signal from the post-scrimmage kick, from the point where the kick ended, which is where he possessed the ball. That's a 5-yard penalty. We can't let him run with that ball. It's not fair. Got the idea? So I guess that makes B incorrect. If a kick receiver waves his hands in a stay-away type signal, it is not a foul. Oh, it is a foul. It's an invalid fair catch signal. Now, I kind of wanted to review one of the major changes of last year by showing you this memo that Mr. Colgate, the national supervisor, sent me. And it regards, you may remember, the restricted zone, the new restricted zone last year. And players, coaches, non-players, etc. cannot be in that restricted zone while the ball is alive. And if they are, but don't contact an official. Now, if they contact an official, it's a whole different sequence. And the second time, someone actually gets kicked out. But even if they don't contact an official, the sequence, he reminds me, or told me, the first offense, you give them a warning. And you may remember the second instance results in a 5-yard penalty. And then the third offense starts resulting in 15-yard penalties. Now, this memo he sent me says that if there, and I hope there would never be, it would be unfathomable, but if there was a fourth offense of this, it should result in another 15-yard penalty and disqualification of the head coach. Doesn't matter who did it. It's the head coach's job to enforce this restricted zone. So, we don't want you to be kicking out head coaches, for crying out loud, but it could happen. Okay, just note the first 3. Put it that way. Okay. Another thing that happened actually twice last year was regarding false starts. Now,
darn tootin'.
Any act clearly intended to cause B to encroach is a false start by A. Make no mistake. We got it right both times, officials, so good job. But I just want to make it clear to people, because it was kind of unclear, I think, to some people. We had 2 situations where it was like 4th down and 4 yards to go, less than 5. And the offense, sometime like in the 3rd quarter, they hadn't done anything like it the whole game, all of a sudden started doing some sort of a stand-up, go-down move, the line was. Kind of like the cowboy move, you might know. And it caused B to encroach. Well, they correctly blamed A for a false start. So just remember, any act clearly intended to cause B to encroach is a false start by A. So I hope you know that makes those 2 facts make option D incorrect, and option C
You just won $1 million.
is correct. Okay, and son of a gun, you did win $1 million. So if you have your printer, by all means, print out your $1,000,000 Schrute bucks And congratulations. I have one more thing I want to remind you of. Some people were very, very nice and had some great ideas last year. And they wanted to suggest some rule changes. They had some great ideas. But the Federation is notorious for making this due very early. So I just want to remind you, this year, the form is available online at the Federation site, and you'll have to have that completely filled out by November 1st if you have a rule change idea. And don't submit it to me. Submit it to the state association. Okay? If you don't know who that is, just you can email me and I'll show you where to go. But it's a Maryland State office. Okay? Well.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to
I thank you for your attention. Have a great season.